Hi, so this is Kelly Borsheim, and I want to give another self-critique on a painting work in progress. Are you ready? So, hopefully this will help you if you want to go with your creative flow, whether it's painting, sculpture, or any kind of problem solving. But first let me explain that what I'm doing here is this is acrylic on paper because it's a painting that I'm playing with. If I end up liking it, all the better. But I'm trying to tell myself, this is my play time, this is my play painting. I don't want it to be precious, as Louise Fletcher uses, and I love that she teaches that to us, because we have these things in our head that it has to be perfect the first time or it's not going to be good enough, and it's not like that. Plus, we don't grow when we don't play, when we don't experiment. So what I'm trying to do here is do something that's not usually my thing, which is a lot of yellow. Do you know what Forsythia is? It's a long branch of plants with bright yellow flowers, and they show up around February, March, depending on how cold it is. It's a winter flower. And they usually bloom before a lot of other things start flowering, so they make a really good impression. Anyway, this is a little village in Tuscany, Castelvecchio, and what I did, you'll see on my channel if I get to put them together, is that I started out with purple. You see the big bright purple here? It's a dark purple, and it's actually a warmer, redder color purple. But anyway, I put that as an underpainting up here where the Forsythia is going to be. Then I painted the road with blue colors in here, just to put in some little bit of cold and a little bit of color in something, because I'm trying to work in color because I love monochrome stuff actually. So I'm trying to push myself into different things. Here I did an outline using a dark magenta, or like an alizarin crimson type thing, and red with a lot of white added. So I've got a warmer red and a colder red, and I just decided to develop just the tones and the basic placement of the buildings that you see in the village. The village actually continues up behind here. So, and then I did orange underneath here. You can see some pieces here with the orange, and down under here, under the green, to have an underwire thing. It's winter time. I took this picture back in 2019 in March, and so the trees in the mountains here, most of them have the leaves are falling off and they haven't grown back up yet. But anyway, so this is the basic general theme of this particular scene. So now I want to critique myself because I've got some of the underpainting. This underpainting I haven't touched. It's not going to be a pink village, okay? Alright, so anyway, on my self-critique, I was thinking of something that my maestro and my mentor and friend Vasily Fedorouk used to say when he would teach sculpting. He said, "Americans always want the shit sandwich." So, pardon my French. Do you know what that means? It means you want a compliment first about what you're doing well, then you give the real critique, you know, the meat of the sandwich, and then the other piece of bread is your final compliment so that you know. He grew up in, he studied in Kiev, in the Ukraine. He's Ukrainian. And the Russian school of thought where the teacher says, go do something and you're supposed to magically figure it out. It's probably not quite that bad, but some of the stuff he's told me has been pretty hard. Anyway, so if I want to give myself the compliment first, I like some of the washy things that I have going on in here, okay? I like some of the textures going on in here. I like the basic outline is okay. I mean, I tried to move the village where it's not, I was worried about splitting things right down in the center. So, there's my compliment. There are things that I do like about this painting on paper. So, now, let's get to the crux of it. First of all, I'm not going to give myself a critique on the village because I know that's my underpainting and I haven't done anything to it, okay? Now, the rest of it though, there's a little road that Corrado built down here. It goes down here, but first it's too large, so I need to shape this, but also this is not the same road, and I think there's a part of my brain that just, when I'm applying the paint, it came that way, but I need to remove some of this, but also this road here, it needs to be more horizontal, and I have it more of a downward kind of curvy thing. Plus, if I were to hang a vertical here, I don't like how this point matches up with this point. It's too much symmetry for my taste. And again, this is a self-critique, so it's all about my taste and what I think is what pleases me. So now that I'm talking about the shape of this road here, I'm probably going to cut this right about there so that it disappears in here, and you'll still get the idea it's a road. You'll still get the idea it's curving around a mountain hilly kind of thing. But I just want to change up a few of these details. So, and that's okay, because you know there's that idea of each corner should look differently. So I have each corner looking very differently. But again, I'm trying to play, so some of this stuff is such a habit ingrained with me for how I learn that it's difficult to move away from it. But I am trying to move away a little bit. I do want a landscape. I do want you to recognize buildings versus nature versus this. But I'm really trying to play with color, and I'm really trying to push away from some of the stuff that I've been doing. So, again, but I always find myself going back to that kind of stuff and then saying to myself, look, if you're a realistic artist and that's what you want to do and you keep going back to it, maybe there's a reason you keep going back to it, blah, blah, blah. So, while I have all of these conversations going on in my head, let me just say a few things. Okay, so the Forsythia is not developed at all. I have the dark shadows here, but overall as a composition, it's not very pretty, and I'm not happy with it as, you know, a place it could leave. But what I did with the hills, you can tell that these are hills. You can tell that the trees are sloping, the hills are going, okay, so that's okay. What I want to do, though, is it's too warm of a color. So I want to make this more of a, maybe a purple, but not a purple like this. The tone is okay in the sense that it's going backwards. You can tell this is in the distance, not just from overlap and that this is in the foreground, but also because we know atmosphere, things get lighter and brighter as they go on in general. There's always exception to a rule. But anyway, my point is that the subject for this particular exercise is the Forsythia of Enio. Enio is a guy that lived here in the village, and he died a couple years ago, but I love his Forsythia, and the new owners have cut it. So, anyway, too much stuff. Always things in my head. I want this to be darker to offset the village, because I want to leave the village kind of a light tone, but not so light that it competes with this, because the eye is going to go to the high point of contrast. But they're kind of sort of two subjects, but this is going to be taking up more real estate, so it's going to be getting a lot of attention. But it could be really that this is still the subject, because it is going to be the lighter spot with this being a mid-tone, and I do want to darken this a little bit. It needs to be enough to pull this forward, but also because if it's all the same tone, think of the no-tan design, the black and white, when you just change things into two tones so you can figure out, you know, what you want to do. There's not enough change here. There's obviously a lot of contrast in here, but this is not, I don't know, it's boring to me, and I don't want it to be bright greens. I mean, this is not a bright green, but this is a bright green. This is a bright green, and that's fine when they come forward to let them come brighter sometimes, but my point is that I want to have this a darker tone so that when I squint, this kind of just, I don't know, it emphasizes what I'm trying to do. Anyway, I'm starting to hurt because I'm repeating myself more than I wanted to, and I wanted this to be a short video of all things. So, thank you for watching. Leave your comments and questions, and if you like this content, subscribe to my YouTube channel at Borsheim Arts. Thanks for watching. Ciao, ciao. Okay, so here you see me laying in a background, the purple color over the orange, over the green, and I'm still trying to keep the relationship of light to dark so that you can distinguish the rows of trees in the hills. But you notice that I'm making it darker, and acrylic, of course, will dry darker than what the application is. So I'm wanting really for the village to pop out against that background, and yeah. So I sped up the video here because, you know, watching somebody paint slow, and it's a lot of real estate to cover to get pigment on there at times. Okay, so now I'm going to work on fixing some of the shapes that are in the road and try to get those figured out. You see that triangle of green that juts into the road there on to the left of the road. I didn't like that. It was too shallow, but also, even though it's wider at the bottom and narrower at the top, I felt that it was just too consistent, and I didn't want a semi-equilateral triangle there because basically too much similarity was going to be boring. So now you see I'm popping in some brighter greens. And yet I'm still popping in some lighter greens so I can keep some kind of three-dimensional thing with the lighter tone and a darker tone, at least minimum of 2. So it's all just a matter of developing and developing. And I can tell you that what I've got here is not even remotely going to be the last pass on this stuff. Okay, I'm adding opaque white paint here because I'm going to go over it later with something else, and I want a really bright color underneath what's coming next. But mostly I just wanted to refine the shape. See the bush in the right, that's right on top of the big street, it's just too dark. But, you know, I'm trying to use different size brushes, a bigger brush here on the Forsythia, to make interesting textures as well. And popping in a brighter yellow. And remember, you can see the photo off to the right there on my computer. That's what I'm working from. I took the photo in March of 2019. It was still winter. Okay, so now I'm adding lighter tones here because I don't want to have, even though all the Forsythia flowers are going to have the same yellow, I don't want the same yellow in my painting. So, you know, I don't remember what the quote is. I'm making a painting, not a person, or whatever, when somebody criticized the realism. I don't believe I have a process problem, actually. I believe I have a focus problem and more a problem about making decisions, because I want to paint like Eugène Carrière. He's my favorite French painter. He was a contemporary of Rodin. I love the way his later paintings are so soft and he pulls out these forms all with soft edges. And I say I'm going to do that all the time, but then I end up going back to this sort of thing that I know and that, you know, I like this too, but not as much as where I want to go. I really want to pull a different direction, but I do find that's a little bit difficult for me to do, and I wish it weren't. You see how much real estate that is? So you see what I'm doing is I'm taking, the white has dried because acrylic will dry fairly quickly. So I'm going back to the place where I started with the white because that'll be dry. And now I'm covering it with a highly intense yellow of a medium tone so that you can get more chroma there. Now, even though I've been working on this particular thing for a while, I also have been living with this, it being in my kitchen in the warmest room in the house right now. So that blue that you see that I added, because it kept coming back to my mind, I'm bored with this. I want a splash of color. I want something there, and I don't want it to make sense. But that particular location kept entering my brain again as put it there. So it doesn't work with the painting as it is now, but I left it there because I wanted to remind myself what my goal for this painting was. And I hope you'll tune in to the next video because it'll be the self-critique of the painting, and it'll help me push into another direction. It's all a process. Thank you for watching. I hope that you'll subscribe to this channel if you're enjoying watching this sort of self-exploration, and hit the notification bell if you want to get notified within your YouTube account. That it won't be an email or anything, but I appreciate it.
I'm trying to get 500 subscribers at least, and I have to get at least 3,000 watch minutes. So anything that you can do to respond, to watch, and all of that helps me develop content and let YouTube know that I am interested in creating content for people who are interested in art, painting and sculptures and making molds and shipping art. I mean, I have all kinds of things on there. And please feel free to ask me if there's something that you would like me to cover. And if I don't know how to do it, I'll tell you. If is something I do and I just didn't know that would be interesting, I'll work on making that. So let's make this into a little art community if we can. And thank you so much. Ciao, ciao for now. I'm going to get back to painting because it's now dark. Ciao. You can hear my fireplace and the clicking of the clock. Tick, tick, tick. It's quite loud. My fireplace, though, I'm going to turn back on the fan once I finish this recording. Just wanted to do the voiceover in some kind of silence, but I think you can hear a little bit of a fire roaring. It's peaceful.